Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And it is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long at the Wild Wild West, Tropicana, and Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. I'm Mike Gill. Andrew Dicecco has the Friday Football at 4 for you. Here, it's Eagles and Falcons. We've got you covered. Who's in and who's out? Well, we know, according to Nick Sirianni anyway, that Brandon Brooks will play. Rodney McLeod, Landon Dickerson, they are both going to miss the game. So we'll start there, Andrew. As we know, Brandon Brooks was kind of a surprise on the injury report earlier this week, but I guess it is a breath of fresh air to see that he will play for the first time since Week 17 of the 2019 season. And having Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson and that starting offensive line together for this game, it really adds a dynamic that they missed essentially all of last season.
Yeah, very much so. It's a great addition. He's a great addition to the offensive line, obviously. One of the best right guards in the league when healthy, of course, and I think that he was being held out as more of a precautionary measure, which is what it was sort of reported as, and it really came to fruition when you see that he's going to be suiting up this week. So what a welcome addition to the offensive line for the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts has to be happy he's going to have one of the best right guards in football protecting him.
Yeah, overall, though, this offensive line was a mess last year. I mean, they had a couple of interesting pieces, individual players who you might be excited about if they're the only guy. Like if Nate Herbig has to play right guard and he's playing with the rest of the starters, that's fine. But if you need to have Nate Herbig, Jack Driscoll, Sue Opeta all at the same time, that's where your problems come in. So as an offense, how does that change Nick Sirianni's ability to call plays because the offensive line is healthy, as opposed to what Doug Peterson had to go through last year?
Well, you're really able to open up the full playbook and get creative and really pull out all the stops, so to speak, and dive deep into everything that you sort of drawn up throughout the summer. When you have a number of backups in there, obviously it's going to be a very limited variety of plays you can really run because the quarterback is going to be sort of under siege, for lack of a better term, for much of the afternoon, and it's not really ideal. It's not really ideal situation or circumstances to really, unravel your full gamut of plays. So I think that it's going to make a big difference, and I think you're going to see a high octane offense and very innovative offense with a healthy and strong, veteran-laden offensive line.
All right, Andrew, let's look at a couple of the matchups that we want to see and get some breakdowns from you, which is, one, how are they going to use number one pick Devonta Smith? I would imagine last year's first-round pick, A.J. Tyrell, and this year's number one pick for Philadelphia, Devonta Smith. We might get a chance to see those two guys go mano-a-mano in Smith's first NFL game. How do you like that matchup?
Yeah, I think that's really what you're going to see. And Devonta Smith is the team's de facto number one receiver. Came into this summer as the most polished route runner and just a very refined skill set. He's so far advanced from any other receiver on the roster, even Greg Ward in many areas. So he's someone that I think is going to step up, take those reins as the top receiver. He should see A.J. Tyrell in coverage. A.J. Tyrell has a season under his belt, of course. You know, he's very high pedigree, he's a former first-round pick. You like his length. He's he's a savvy player. I think that Devonta Smith is going to be able to get open on, due to his precise route running. And, I think that's going to be one of the matchups to watch. I do think that he's going to be involved early in this game plan, early in the game, short to intermediate routes. And I think that could ultimately set up a bigger play as the game sort of goes on.
Yeah, everybody very anticipatory towards what Devonta Smith might bring to the table. We didn't get to see a lot of him in the preseason, so this will really be his coming out party. Also, everybody wants to know, how do you see Ertz and Goddard? How do those two guys, snap counts, splits, who gets more targets? Is it more about that or just how they utilize those two guys? They're going to see more 12 personnel, one of those guys. Give us the breakdown on the Ertz-Goddard dynamic.
Yeah, I've been asked a lot about that this week. I think early on, at least for the first 2-3 games, while your receiving core is so inexperienced and you're sort of easing them into the NFL, at least in the terms of Quez Watkins and Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor to some extent, I think you're going to see a lot of the 12 personnel. And why not when you have, two top 10, potential top 10 tight ends on your roster that both present different type of matchups and stresses levels on defenses. I think when you look at Dallas Goddard, he's a more explosive player. He's going to have opportunity to really get vertical and test the secondary, which have a pair of slow-footed safeties that don't have any remarkable athleticism. I think there's going to be an opportunity there for some big play potential. Then you have Zach Ertz, who's going to work over the middle of the field. Very technically savvy route runner, knows how to get open, has a great feel for that, has good chemistry with every quarterback that he's played with. He's going to provide a security blanket there. And I think he's going to be another red zone weapon and on Sunday, much like Dallas Goddard will. So you have to really like what both players represent, as far as just a diverse skill set to the offense. And you're going to see a number of receivers rotate in and out. And but I think you're going to see a sort of a heavier 12 personnel usage, at least in the early goings.
Yeah, and I guess on that, to kind of further it, Andrew, is how is the matchup for the tight ends this week with the linebackers of the Falcons? Is this a spot where Jalen Hurts, because look, safety first, right? You can go to the safety valve, the old faithful guys, Goddard and Ertz. Is this a week where those guys should be available?
I think so, Mike. They have a couple of linebackers who are rangy and good coverage acumen, and Deion Jones and Foyesade Olokun, who I really like. He led the team with 117 tackles and was third on the team with actually 9 quarterback hits last season. But I think that there's going to be an opportunity to even get beyond those guys and really take advantage of those safeties in Eric Harris and Deron Harmon, who really don't offer much in terms of explosiveness or range. So there's going to be an opportunity there for both players to sort of shake free and really, take advantage of a really questionable and vulnerable back end for the Atlanta Falcons.
Right. Andrew Dicecco, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. The Eagles and the Falcons, you can hear it this weekend on 97.3 ESPN. I'm interested to see how Watkins and Reagor also get involved in the offense as well. But obviously Smith and those tight ends are going to be a big factor. And then let's go to the running game. Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott. How do they factor into this one? Because we had Baldy on Wednesday, Andrew, and he said he thought the Eagles should steamroll the Falcons based on he likes their offensive line matchup that much against this Falcons offensive front. So, does Nick Sirianni lean on his run game in this one?
I think that would be the smart move, especially there's going to be a lot of season opening jitters. He's a rookie head coach, and you have Jalen Hurts, who's making his first start as the unquestioned starter for this football team. There's going to be a lot of adrenaline and a lot of just, nerves, and that's not always a bad thing. But I think to settle everyone in, you want to lean on the running game. You have a diverse stable of running backs to really utilize at your disposal. Miles Sanders is obviously going to get the primary, he's going to be the primary ball carrier and see the lion's share of the carries. Then you're also going to see some Boston Scott and some Kenneth Gainwell mixed in there from as far as change-up running backs are concerned, and get them involved in the receiving game. Then I also do have a sneaky suspicion that Jordan Howard is probably going to get the Saturday elevation from the practice squad to provide that between the tackles, bruiser, and grind out that tough yardage and potential goal line situation. So they have a really just a diverse group of running backs that I think that they're all going to be involved in some form or fashion, but it all starts with Miles Sanders. I do agree with Baldy, there is going to be a big opportunity here to take advantage of a defensive line that outside of Grady Jarrett, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of players on that line that are going to be very disruptive on the other side of the line of scrimmage. They have Tyler Davidson, who's a veteran player, only has a half sack to his name. He was with the Saints for a while, and now he's here with the Atlanta Falcons. Never really put his stamp on that position. Then there's Jonathan Bullard, who signed a 1-year contract in April. More of a journeyman. The Falcons are his 4th team. He only has 3.5 career sacks. Not an overly big guy. I think that if you get a body on him on the interior, such as Brandon Brooks, and get some of those interior players, Jason Kelsey's on those guys, I think they're really going to be sort of kept at bay, and I think they're going to kind of open running lanes for Miles Sanders and his cohorts.
Andrew, the impact of McLeod being out, I guess the anticipation that he wouldn't be ready, but what's that mean now for the defense, especially at that spot?
Yeah, it's really no surprise he's not going to play. However, I think that you're going to see, many may think that it's going to be Kevon Wallace that's going to get the start. I have a feeling that it'll be Marcus Epps that's going to get the call and I think you're going to see a lot of Wallace rotated in. I think they're going to sort of platoon in that area. But with Marcus Epps, you're going to see a player who isn't going to wow you with athleticism, but he is a very sharp-minded football player, has pretty decent ball skills, but he doesn't play with great anticipation. He's not the fastest safety, but I think there's a comfort level there with him back there, knowing that he's very, he has his assignments down pat. They know exactly what they're getting in him. Then you have a little bit more of an upside player in Kevon Wallace that can do a little bit more things and provide more value than Epps can. So I think you kind of see those guys platoon there, but they're going to have a heck of a battle going against Kyle Pitts, who's pretty much like a unicorn. He can move all around the offensive formations and present all different types of mismatches. So I don't know that the Eagles have a defensive player equipped to slow Kyle Pitts. I also don't know that many teams do, but he's going to be the X factor on Sunday, in my opinion.
He's an interesting guy. I want to talk more about him, but first I want to see your thoughts on the Eagles front. You've got Brandon Graham, you've got Fletcher Cox, you've got Hargrave. We've heard so much about Sweat. They've got Derek Barnett. How are they going to use Ryan Kerrigan? The Falcons' offensive line is kind of iffy.
Yeah, especially on the interior. You have Chris Lindstrom, the right guard, who's a third-year starter now. You have Matt Hennessy, of course, from Temple. He started 2 games last season, was not overly impressive. And then you have a rookie in Jalen Mayfield from Michigan, who's going to, sort of be thrown in there to start at left guard, going up against that ferocious interior that the Eagles have. And that's where they're really suspect. Even on the edge, when they have Caleb McGarry, that is, and they have Jake Matthews. I think that there's going to be an opportunity there for the Eagles' edge rushers, particularly Josh Sweat, who I think has double-digit sack potential in this game, to really, turn the corner and provide pressure on Matt Ryan. But I think it really starts up front, in the middle, with Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave to collapse that pocket. Even if they don't get to Matt Ryan, I think just getting him off his spot, he's not a very mobile quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. So just providing that pressure up the middle and moving him off his spot just a little bit has, shown that he'll force some erratic throws, and that can lead to a turnover. So I think that's where it's going to be won.
Andrew, how do you see Jonathan Gannon utilizing his secondary against Calvin Ridley? I mean, we'll bring up Pitts because that's a whole nother avenue, but Ridley's their number one. Does Slay move around with them? Do they change sides of the field? How do you see the secondary against Ridley?
There's no one else in the Eagles secondary that can stay with Calvin Ridley, plain and simple. This is what you brought Darius Slay here for these exact moments. And I think you're going to see him, Ridley's going to draw Slay in coverage for pretty much all of the afternoon. And this is where you want to see what Darius Slay can do. Obviously, he fulfilled his role as the team's top corner last season, but there were also some challenges that he had against guys like DK Metcalf and some of the bigger-bodied receivers and more prominent receivers in the league. So you really want to see him rise to the occasion. I think he's going to run into some issues with Calvin Ridley, who may not be a burner. He's not a burner by any stretch, but he is a very prolific route runner. I think he's really going to make his money on these short to intermediate routes and then set something up for down the field and take advantage of Slay's aggressiveness. So I think that's something to watch there. But to answer your question, I do think that Slay's going to really shoulder that assignment on Sunday.
Okay, and then Pitts, you brought him up, unicorn. Who defends him? I mean, you go with Wilson. Singleton's, that's not his strong suit. McLeod's not here. Maddox, do you use a corner? How do you anticipate them throwing looks at Kyle Pitts?
Well, he's just such a mismatch, Mike, that I don't even know. I mean, even Eric Wilson or Anthony Harris would be the two players that I think would get that assignment. I don't know that there's a corner here that you want. You don't want to take Darius Slay off of Calvin Ridley because I don't know that you want Steven Nelson isolated on the receiver that just amassed 143 targets last season. And he's going to take probably 170 targets this year without Julio Jones there. So they're going to keep peppering him with targets. I don't know that you want Steven Nelson out there on an island guarding Calvin Ridley. So I think it's going to be Anthony Harris if I had to guess right now. But, again, Kyle Pitts is just such an explosive player, such a rare player that you can move him all around formations, that he has the catch radius, the speed, the contested catch ability, the red zone upside. I think that they're going to find a way to get him involved early. I don't know how elaborate the Falcons are going to be in utilizing him in the number of ways that we've seen him used at Florida this early in the season. But, if they don't stop him, it's going to get, if they don't find a way to slow him, I should say, it could get interesting.
All right, couple X factors from Andrew Dicecco. Give me a couple of guys in this game that you will have a closer eye on who could be the difference in a win or a loss.
Well, Quez Watkins is the training camp standout, and I think that he could see anywhere from 25 to 30 snaps if I were guessing. You have to factor in the two tight end sets. I think it's going to limit his snap count a little bit, but if they can find a way to isolate him on Fabian Moreau, the corner opposite A.J. Tyrell, who's not very instinctive, doesn't play with much anticipation, and he's not a very technically savvy player, he's been known to sort of get beat by downfield with some of these explosive, dynamic players, and I think if they can get Quez Watkins isolated on him, you could see a deep shot or two this week. So that's something that I would watch for. And, Javon Hargrave is another X factor of mine. I think that he's going to benefit from Fletcher Cox sort of drawing, commanding double teams as he does. So I think that he's going to really be able to collapse the pocket and make life miserable for Matt Ryan early, which could force a turnover and flip the script for the entire game.
All right. With that, we've got a lot of breakdowns on this game, the Eagles and the Falcons. And obviously, anticipation for this Eagles season, a little low for most people. I think last year was painful, Andrew. That was a painful season. If the team is not a successful one, it at least seems like it's going to be a more entertaining one. So, week one, this is a 4-wins Falcons team coming into this season. Can the Eagles go on the road and pick up a win against the Atlanta Falcons? Kind of give us your breakdown and how you see this game going.
Well, here's the thing. The Falcons may have the home field advantage. They have the veteran and experienced quarterback, and who has a long-standing relationship with Calvin Ridley, their top receiver. So there's that familiarity there. However, the Eagles have the better roster, and they're stronger on both sides of the lines. And I think that's where the game was ultimately won. I have the Eagles winning this game 24-20.
24-20, Andrew Dicecco, Inside the Birds, and, of course, the Inside the Birds podcast. And the Inside the Birds guys will be having their new pregame show starting on Sundays at 10 o'clock. You can get the details on the Inside the Birds Twitter account. They've got a press release out on that. Andrew, of course, will be back on Tuesday to break this all down and look ahead to the Eagles and the 49ers. But you got him going off on the right foot. Eagles 24, Falcons 20 at A. Dicecco NFL. And we appreciate him, as always, on the Happy Hour Friday. Thank you, Andrew.
You got it, man. Enjoy the weekend.
Oh, yeah, man. The football's back. Andrew's back. We're all back. Well, Andrew's been here, and I've been the one that has been gone. And we are brought to you, of course, Football at 4, by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season at the Wild Wild West Tropicana, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com.